Imagine two people, both earn the same salary, both work just as hard, both save money, both invest. Fast forward 20 years. One is financially free, the other is still waiting for one big break. So what happened? Did one of them simply work harder, get luckier, have better timing? Not exactly. The difference is something most people never realize. Because money doesn't follow rules. Money follows laws. Rules can be broken, laws can't. You can ignore gravity, but gravity will never ignore you. Money works the same way. You can spend years following random financial advice. Save more, work harder, invest early. Yet somehow, your wealth barely moves, because those are tactics. Today we're talking about something deeper. The invisible laws that quietly decide who becomes wealthy, and who stays stuck forever. I spent years studying entrepreneurs, billionaires, investors, and businesses worth billions of dollars. And after seeing the same patterns repeat over and over, I realized something. Every successful wealth-building strategy is built on just three forces: momentum, structure, and asymmetry. Momentum helps money grow faster. Structure decides who actually keeps the rewards. And asymmetry lets you win big, without risking everything. Let's start with the first law. Law number 1. Money loves speed. Wealth loves time. Years ago, two friends entered real estate. Both were ambitious. Both were smart. Both had access to great opportunities. But they played completely different games. The first friend became a house flipper. He'd buy a property as a renovate it, sell it, collect the profit, and immediately hunt for the next deal. Every few months, another flip, another paycheck. It felt exciting, fast, productive. The second friend looked slower. He bought one rental property and simply held it. A few years later, he upgraded to a 4-unit building, then, eventually, to a 20-unit apartment complex. No constant buying, no endless selling, just patient ownership. 5 years later, the flipper had completed over 100 deals. He had made good money, but the second friend, whose strategy looked boring the entire time, had built nearly 5 times more wealth. Why? Because money loves speed, but wealth loves time. Most people confuse these two. Speed isn't getting rich quickly. Speed is how fast you move when opportunity appears. You spot a good investment, you act, you meet the right business partner, you move, you find a valuable skill, you learn it immediately. The shorter the gap between seeing opportunity and taking action, the faster money starts moving. That's speed. But wealth is different. Wealth doesn't reward constant activity. It rewards patience. Once you've made a great decision, your biggest job becomes not interrupting compounding. This is where most people fail. They expect fast action to produce fast results. But compounding doesn't work that way. At first, nothing seems to happen. Months pass, sometimes years. It almost feels like you made the wrong decision. Then suddenly, growth becomes explosive. Think about planting a tree. For years, most of the work happens underground. The roots grow first. Only later does everyone notice the tree. Money compounds exactly the same way. That's why investors like Warren Buffett became legends. He didn't constantly chase the next hot investment. He bought exceptional businesses and then gave them something almost nobody else could: time. Because time isn't just another ingredient in wealth. Time is the multiplier. And once you understand that, a much bigger question appears. If time creates wealth, who actually benefits from that wealth? The answer leads to the second law. Law number 2. The person who gives the money controls the game. Think about this. When a company is sold, who usually becomes richer over the next decade? The founder or the buyer? Surprisingly, it's often the buyer. Because buying isn't just owning. Buying gives you control. Look at history. Google bought YouTube. Meta bought Instagram. Those purchases created tens of billions of dollars in value. Not because they invented those companies, but because they owned what happened next. The same pattern appears everywhere. Business, sports teams, real estate, private equity. The buyer writes the check and gains the future. Most people spend their lives trying to become better sellers. But the wealthy focus on becoming better buyers. That doesn't mean buying billion-dollar companies tomorrow. It means changing the way you think. Instead of asking, what can I sell? Start asking, what can I own? Because ownership compounds. Income doesn't. Every paycheck eventually gets spent. Ownership keeps working, even while you sleep. And here's the exciting part. You don't need millions to start thinking like an owner. Buying one share of a great company is still ownership. Owning part of a business is still ownership. Building something instead of constantly consuming is still ownership. Once your mindset changes, your entire financial life changes with it. But ownership alone isn't enough. The biggest players have another advantage. They know how to multiply every dollar they already own. Which brings us to law number 3. Law number 3, leverage multiplies everything. Imagine buying a $1 million house. If you pay cash and the property rises by 10%, you earn $100,000. Simple. Now, imagine buying that exact same house using a mortgage. Instead of paying $1 million, you invest only $200,000, while the bank finances the rest. The house still rises by the same 10%, but your return on the money you actually invested becomes dramatically larger. Same house, same appreciation, different outcome. Why? Leverage. Leverage simply means using other resources to increase your results. Banks use leverage. Businesses use leverage. Private equity uses leverage. Even billionaires use leverage. Instead of selling valuable assets, many borrow against them. Their investments continue growing, while the borrowed money buys new opportunities. Of course, leverage has a dangerous side too. It magnifies losses just as easily as gains. Think of it like fire. In the right hands, it powers entire cities. In the wrong hands, it burns everything down. That's why smart investors don't ask, "Can I borrow more?" They ask, "Can I survive if this goes wrong?" Used wisely, leverage becomes one of the greatest wealth-building tools ever created. Used carelessly, it destroys decades of progress, which leads to another realization. Even leverage can't make you wealthy, unless you're building the right type of asset. Law number 4, cash flow. Pays your bills. Equity builds your freedom. Most people spend their entire careers chasing higher income, higher salary, higher bonus, higher paycheck. There's nothing wrong with that. Cash flow matters. Cash flow keeps the lights on. It pays rent, buys groceries, funds vacations. It gives you today's lifestyle. But cash flow has one weakness. The moment you stop working, it often stops too. Equity is different. Equity keeps growing, whether you're working or not. Owning a business is equity. Owning shares of great companies is equity. Owning, appreciating assets is equity. That's why the wealthiest people aren't simply high earners. They're high owners. Take McDonald's. Most people think it became successful by selling burgers, but the real fortune came from owning valuable real estate and collecting royalties from thousands of franchise locations. The burgers create cash flow. Ownership creates wealth. That's the difference. Your income pays for your life. Your ownership changes your future. And once you begin building equity, another question naturally appears. How much risk should you take to build extraordinary wealth without destroying everything you've already built? If you've made it this far, you've probably noticed something. None of these laws are about getting rich overnight. They're about staying in the game long enough for wealth to become inevitable. But there's one problem. Most people think the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. It sounds logical. Unfortunately, it's wrong. Let's talk about the 5th law. Law number 5, risk and reward, are not linear. Imagine you're an investor. You have 5 startups to choose from. You invest the same amount in each one. The first company fails, the second fails, the third barely returns your money. Most people would panic. But then, the 4th company becomes worth 10 times your investment. And the 5th? It explodes, returning 100 times what you invested. Suddenly, those first 3 losses don't matter anymore. One massive winner paid for everything. This is exactly how venture capital works. The best investors don't expect every investment to succeed. They simply know one extraordinary winner can change everything. That's called asymmetry, a small downside with an enormous upside. And that's the game wealthy people play. They don't ask, what's the safest investment? They ask, if I'm wrong, how much can I lose? And if I'm right, how much can I win? Notice the difference. Average investors chase certainty. Great investors chase favorable odds. Because wealth isn't built by avoiding every loss. It's built by making sure your winners are dramatically bigger than your losers. But there's one important rule. Never confuse asymmetric investing with gambling. Going all in on one opportunity isn't courage, it's recklessness. Which leads us to perhaps the most important law of all. Law number 6. Never bet the empire for a pot of gold. A friend of mine spent more than 15 years saving money. Every bonus, every raise, every extra dollar. Eventually, he had nearly $700,000. Then someone introduced him to an investment. The presentation looked perfect. Huge returns, tax advantages, trusted people recommending it. Everything sounded convincing. So, he made one decision. That erased 15 years of hard work. He invested almost everything. 2 years later, the investment collapsed. His life savings disappeared. Not because he was stupid, not because he was lazy, because he broke one rule. He bet the empire for a pot of gold. The biggest mistake in investing isn't choosing the wrong opportunity. It's choosing the wrong position size. Even the greatest investment in the world becomes dangerous if you risk everything on it. Professional investors understand this better than anyone. Ray Dalio once explained that investing isn't just about increasing returns. It's about reducing unnecessary risk. Imagine 2 investments. One returns 12% every year with very low risk. Another promises 15%, but carries massive uncertainty. Most beginners chase the higher number. Professionals often choose the safer one, because if you stay in the game long enough, compounding eventually beats excitement. The goal isn't to become rich this year. The goal is to never be forced to start over. Protect the machine. That creates your wealth. Because once your foundation disappears, every future opportunity disappears with it. And finally, there's one law that confuses almost everyone: diversification. People repeat the word constantly, but very few actually understand it. Law number 7. Diversification is a hedge against ignorance. Wall Street loves one message: diversify everything. Spread your money everywhere. Own a little bit of everything. Sounds safe, but here's something interesting. Most billionaires do the exact opposite. Why? Because diversification isn't a reward, it's protection. When you deeply understand something and you have influence over it, concentration often creates extraordinary wealth. Think about Elon Musk. Most of his wealth came from Tesla, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, Bill Gates, Microsoft. None of them became billionaires by owning tiny pieces of 500 random companies. They concentrated because they understood the business better than almost anyone else. Now, does that mean you should put all your savings into one stock? Absolutely not. Here's the difference. Ask yourself 2 questions. First, do I truly understand the risk? Second, do I have any control over the outcome? If the answer to both is yes, concentration may make sense. If you understand the business, but don't control it, be more careful. If you don't understand it at all, that's when diversification protects you. Diversification exists to protect people from what they don't know. Knowledge reduces uncertainty. Ignorance increases it. The less you know, the more you should diversify. The more you truly understand, the more focused you can become. That's the real lesson. The decision filter. Every investor should use before putting money into anything. Ask yourself 5 simple questions. Number 1, can this compound for years? Or is it only a short-term opportunity? Number 2, who actually controls the outcome, you or someone else? Number 3, if this investment fails, how much of my money survives? Number 4, is the potential upside significantly larger than the downside? And finally, number 5, can I clearly explain how this investment makes money and what could cause it to fail? If you can't answer those questions, you probably shouldn't invest yet. Most people spend their lives searching for secret investments, secret strategies, secret shortcuts. But wealth has never been a secret. It's simply a system. Move quickly when opportunity appears. Give great decisions, enough time to compound. Become an owner instead of only an earner. Use leverage wisely, not recklessly. Build equity instead of only chasing income. Take risks where your downside is limited and your upside is extraordinary. Protect your empire before chasing another fortune. And diversify only where your knowledge ends. Because at the end of the day, money doesn't care how hard you work. It doesn't care how smart you think you are. It rewards only one thing: understanding the laws that have been quietly running the financial world all along. Master those laws, and money starts working for you, instead of you spending your entire life working for money.